Good afternoon, everyone. This is Queenie Clem with Queenie's Book Talk and Reviews, and I am your literary ambassador. And today I have Richelle Smallwood on my channel today. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
How you doing today?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm blessed. I'm blessed. Now tell us a little about yourself.
So I am a children's author. I'm also a licensed therapist. I work primarily with children. Something that I'm passionate about is working with children who have experienced trauma and also working with young girls about boosting their self-esteem. So a lot of the stuff that I write has a lot to do with boosting character traits and boosting self-esteem among the youth.
Okay. What is your genre and what attracted you to this genre?
So my genre is writing children's books and writing children's book with a message. I remember growing up and loving to read, and some of the things that stayed with me the most were the stories with the moral at the end of the story. And so when I started writing, I said, I want to write something, but I want to write something with a takeaway, like the stories that I used to read, where you have to, when you remember sitting in English class and having to figure out what the moral of the story was. I love those type of books and kind of figuring out what the author wanted me to get out of the story. And so that's kind of the approach that I take with the children's books that I write. All of them have a message.
Okay, tell us about all of your books and the inspiration behind them.
Okay, so I want to start, I know it sounds odd to have a favorite and I'm the one that wrote it. So I want to start with my favorite. My favorite is Lost and Found, Journey to Self-Discovery. So just to give you a little info about the background behind that, this story started out as a college assignment. I was in my seminar class and our teacher wanted us to take a creative approach to describing our journey throughout the program. And so since I love to write and since I felt like it was something that came easy to me, I said, I'll write a children's book. So it originally started out as an assignment, and when I presented it in front of the class, everyone kind of gravitated to it and said, you really need to get this published. And so when I wrote it initially, I was just trying to complete an assignment. I wasn't trying to get a book published. And the story that I wrote and turned into a children's book was kind of my own personal journey. And so this is a symbolic story about a little girl who decides one morning she is just going to wake up and find herself. So she packs a luggage, throws everything in her suitcase, and she sets off on a journey. Mm-hmm. And so as she's going on that journey, she realizes that some of the things that she has packed are not helpful to her journey, but they are a hindrance to her journey. And so those things, as you'll later find out, kind of represent things like low self-esteem, past trauma, all the kind of baggage that we carry that was weighing her down. And at one point in the story, the little girl decides, hey, you know, these things are too heavy. I'm going to toss them out. And so she tossed them out and she starts to gather new things along her journey. Not to give away the ending, but towards the ending, she starts to realize that everything that she thought that she needed was always with her to begin with. And that she, the journey wasn't about finding these things. The journey was about finding out who she really was. Mm-hmm. And so it's called Lost and Found, Journey to Self-Discovery, because that's what happens along her journey. One of the things that, why this is my favorite, because I wrote it in 2010, 2011. But even now, my story is teaching me, like a lot of the things as I reflect back on it, I was like, wow, I wrote that at that time. It was kind of foreshadowing my own story and the own journey that I had to kind of go through to kind of find myself.
Tell us about your second book.
So my second book is called Small Fry, Alexandria's Giant Dreams. So this is a story about a little girl who was born into a family of giants. And so not only were there giants that were like big and tall in stature, but they all had special gifts. And so she was ordinary human size. So she didn't really fit into her family, and she didn't really know what her special gift was. And so throughout this story, she's constantly trying to find herself and fit in other people's shoes. Like she wants to see if she has her father's gift. She wants to figure out if she has her sisters or her brother's gifts. So that's kind of symbolic of self-comparison. We want to compare ourselves to other people's gifts and other people's walks, but not really seeing what we bring to the table and embracing our own journey. And so throughout this book, as she's trying to walk in other people's footsteps, it doesn't work out for her. And so she starts to feel really down on herself until, something big happens where none of her family's gifts can help them. And she realizes through that she has the only gift that can help them. And so it's called Small Fry, Alexandria's Giant Dreams. And the message that I wanted kids to receive from that is that you can't compare yourself to anyone else.
True.
You have something special to bring to the table, and it doesn't matter how small you are, you can still do great things.
Okay, I like that. Okay, the next book.
So the next book is The Color Thief. I don't have a copy of that on me, but The Color Thief is a story about bullying. And so in The Color Thief, the main character wakes up and her entire world is gray. And so she is just kind of struck with disbelief that all of her colors are gone. She went to bed and her world was colorful, and she woke up and everything was gray. And through the story, you can see that it just kind of gets darker and darker as the pages turn. And she meets the color thief. In her mind, she's imagining him to be this great big, dastardly monster. But she meets the color thief and sees that he is just a kid like her, and that he stole her colors because someone stole his.
Okay.
And so that kind of teaches kids the message behind bullying and why people bully. But it also teaches them towards the end. The color thief says, I didn't steal your colors. You kind of freely had them laying down. You didn't appreciate them. And so that kind of gives a message that no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. And so people people can bully you, but it's up to you to relinquish that power to them.
Okay, your next one.
And so my most recent one, my last one, is Be Brave.
Yes.
Be Brave is a story that I wrote, with all of the things surrounding Black Lives Matter. So I wrote this specifically to little brown kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote this specifically to them, not to discriminate, but it's an affirmational book, kind of telling them to be brave. No matter what people call you, no matter what people tell you, no matter how many times people make you feel like you are not enough, you are enough. And so throughout the story, I'm, speaking affirmations to them. Be brave because of this. Be brave. You are strong, and things like that throughout the story. And also in that story is different because it's like a little question and answer that parents can work with their kids about. They're like kid-friendly questions, but they talk about and cover deep topics. And so I leave a note to parents of how they can kind of begin these conversations with their kids.
Okay. Can you read a snippet from one of your books?
Sure. I'm going to pick my favorite. All right. So let's see. I'll start from the beginning of Lost and Found. Have you ever lost something? Was it old or something new? Of all the things you lost, have you ever lost you? Have you ever turned around and wondered where you gone? Because suddenly you realized you were not your own. Did you look in the mirror and gasp with such a fright because the person you once were had disappeared overnight? Well, this happened to a girl I knew. She was very close to me until the day she vanished. Now she's a mystery. She had kinky curly hair and a face that was so plain. Such a humble spirit with kindness in her veins. She followed every rule, colored within the lines, stayed inside the box, and dared not speak her mind. She obeyed every order, every demand, wish, and request. She blindly followed others without a second guess. She never bent the law, and she played by the book until one day she decided to give her life a second look. She realized that her world was shaped by others' hands and that she was a mere puppet that followed the world's commands. She was not a mindless girl. In fact, she was quite right. She could read any story, but her own she did not write. Her emulated thinking left her life in such a rut. She could no longer be a puppet. Her strings had to be cut. Her only view of life was through another's eye. So she had to venture off, spread her wings, and say goodbye. So she threw her suitcase on the bed and tossed in items off the shelf. She was going on a journey to find herself. Okay, so that's
Wow.
a little snippet. And as it goes on, you'll kind of see the things that she starts to pack and the things that she finds on her journey.
Okay. Do any of your books you write come from your childhood?
I would say that a lot of them. So Small Fry, The Color Thief, and Lost and Found is kind of more teen and adolescent.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say Small Fry and The Color Thief, just because I dealt with a lot of bullying as a child, kind of growing up as a chunky kid. Bullying was like a rite of passage kind of. And so Small Fry, like always feeling different, always comparing myself to others. And then in The Color Thief, just allowing other people's opinions of me to dictate how I viewed myself.
Yes. Yes. How long does it take you to complete one of your books?
So to write it, this is why I believe that it's my gift, because to write it, if it just comes to me, if there's a situation that just sparks me to kind of write,
Mhm.
I could write a book in a day, a children's book in a day.
Wow.
The process, though, like to get illustrations,
Yeah.
to go back and forth with the illustrator about your vision, that can take anywhere from up to 6 months to a year with that process.
Oh, okay. Wow. Who has been a reading role model in your life?
So do you mean like authors that I
Who
like, or someone
started
that, oh,
who
so who,
started you to reading in your life?
oh yeah, so my mom and dad, my dad used to read the children's story Bible to me.
Mhm.
And as I got older, I used to read it to him. My dad also used to get me to read the dictionary and pronounce different words.
Mhm.
But my mom knew that I was like an avid reader. And so my favorite book series growing up was Goosebumps and the Bailey School Kids. And so she would buy me a collection of those to just read.
Mhm. What book have had the biggest influence on your life?
I would say, I know it's probably controversial now, but I would say Dr. Seuss books. He was kind of like in my younger years, I just like
Mhm.
the rhythm
Yes.
of his poems, and which you can kind of see in a lot of my stories. I use poetry. I love poetry.
Mhm.
And so I kind of am inspired by the rhythm and how he uses his words.
Oh, okay. What is the most difficult aspect of writing a children's book?
I would say the most difficult part for me and the most expensive part is finding an illustrator
Oh, yeah.
um, that can match your vision and kind of bring your vision to life through
Mhm.
pictures.
What do you do when you're not writing?
So when I am not writing, I am a full-time therapist, a mental health therapist, working with children and teens. So next to writing, doing group therapy with teens and helping them build their self-esteem and teaching them coping skills is my next passion.
Oh, okay. What are you currently working on right now?
So I am working on another book. So this is a big challenge for me because I am used to writing children's books, but this book is going to be more for, it's going to be a chapter book, a self-help book for young adults. And so it kind of plays into the theme of journeys too, and kind of respecting your own journey, not rushing the process. But it has been a challenge for me because, like I said, children's books I can write in a day. But this chapter book, this self-help book, it's been a bit of a challenge. So I have been starting and stopping, and the endless cycle.
Where can readers find you and your books?
So you can find me on Facebook and Instagram, Providential Care. And you can find my books on Amazon online and Barnes and Nobles online. If you type in my name, Richelle Smallwood, they all should kind of pop up underneath my name.
Okay. What has been your greatest accomplishment thus far in your writing career?
I will say that my greatest accomplishment is, I didn't share this with you. So my greatest accomplishment is my workbook that I developed in, I think, 2019, based off of my children's book. And so the reason why this is my greatest accomplishment is because it's the longest thing that I have written. And it took a lot of dedication to kind of use what I've learned as a therapist and kind of combined it to some of the messages in my book so that I can not only reiterate some of the profound messages in the children's book, but to also teach kids coping skills for how to deal with these issues, for how to deal with self-esteem issues and bullying and negative thoughts that they might have. And so when I first wrote my children's book, I knew that I wanted to do something else with it. But at that time, it didn't come to me to make a workbook. But in 2019, I was like, hey, I can use what I know from my profession and manage things in my book. And it really worked out well. I ended up turning my workbook into a program, a 9-session self-esteem program for adolescent girls.
Okay. Is there anything else you would like to add before we close?
I think that is about it. Like I said, my website, you can find my books there, www.myprovidentialcare.com. You can find me on Instagram and on Facebook, and my books can be found on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles online.
Okay. Thank you for coming in today. And can you show your book covers one more time, please?
Yes, I can share the copies that I have. So this is Lost and Found, Journey to Self-Discovery. And this is Lost and Found, Self-Esteem Workbook. Oh, another thing that I wanted to mention, I forgot to mention, you can tell that the girl's, she's aged from the first book to the second book. And so that is because she's now a teenager. So this indicates that this is for, preteens and teens.
Okay.
And this is the other copy of the small Fry Alexandria's Giant Dreams. And the other two that are not shown are The Color Thief and Be Brave.
All right. Thank you for coming in today. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you for having me.
All right. This is Queenie Clem with Queenie's Book Talk and Reviews. Happy reading. Bye, y'all.
Bye.